Hi there. I'm Shauna Gordon-McKeon, and I'm here today for the very first ever open source project tour. Um, so let me just do a little bit of an intro to what I'm envisioning these project tours to be, with the caveat that because this is the first one, I kind of have no idea. Um, but the general goal of the project tours is to really explore how open source projects are structured, um, specifically with an eye to how they facilitate collaboration or don't facilitate collaboration, but basically thinking about open source projects as sort of living communities of people who are interacting with code, with documentation, with other things, and just seeing how the structure of the projects as a whole um, meets the goals of the project, or in some cases doesn't. Um, so we're going to start with a bit of a discussion about today's project, which is called NF Core, and like the history and goals of the project. We'll talk a little bit about the different stakeholders involved and the specific spaces that the project lives in online, or maybe offline, but we can only explore the ones that are online. Maybe someday we can do a project tour that involves like going to a conference or something. But yeah, and then we'll go into the tour itself. And then do a little bit of a wrap up at the end. So that's the plan. We'll see how it goes. Uh, so yeah, let's get started with an intro. So do you want to introduce yourself and NF Core?
Yes, so hello, my name is Maxime Garcia. I'm a bioinformatician. I've been working with Nextflow for almost 10 years now, and I've been developing Nextflow pipeline. So first at the Karolinska Institute here in Sweden, and then at Sekara with the company that was built on by that was created by the developers that created Nextflow. And Nextflow is a workflow manager that really simplifies the way that we write analysis pipeline. And and a whole community was built around that, which is NF Core.
So what kind of pipelines? So I know nothing about this project, which I think is maybe for anyone watching this who also doesn't know anything about the project, because I will ask very simple questions like, what kind of pipelines, what kind of workflows, like what is there like a specific programming language, domain area that this is sort of arising out of?
So at the beginning, it was mainly, at the beginning, it's more bioinformatics. And
Bioinformatics.
specific to bioinformatics is more targeted toward genomics. So basically analyzing DNA, RNA, or anything that goes outside of a sequencer.
Gotcha. And so was it coming out of academia or like a private lab or
So the whole history of the project started actually the people behind Nextflow were organizing events for like other people that were developing, like that were working with Nextflow so that they can meet and like exchange ideas. And Phil Yules, who has been working with MultiQC and like other open source projects, met two guys in Barcelona, like at one of these events, Andreas and Alex. And they decided that, okay, we are doing like some stuff that are pretty similar. We are working on like the same kind of data. We have the same kind of pipeline. And in the end, they decided, okay, it will be much easier for everyone if we just join forces and work together on the same stuff. So very simply, so Phil came back from Barcelona. I was sitting next to him at the time, and he just asked me, "Oh, Maxime, by the way, there's like this guy in Germany, like he wants to collaborate on some pipeline. So let's let's get you like hooked on." And that's how I started working onto that. And
and
yeah, and so that's
so
already how it started everything.
so you were involved pretty early on, from like
Yeah,
about
yeah, I was involved, I think, like before the community was even started, but like I was not part of the original team that created the idea. So I'm just like I'm not one of the founder of NFCore, but I'm part of the building bricks, I think.
gotcha. And that was about 10 years ago.
So no, I started developing with Nextflow in 2016. I think NGI, which is the sequencing platform that Phil was sitting at, started developing pipeline maybe a couple of years prior to that. And NF Core started, like the idea was started like in late 2017, and we really started to do some proper stuff in 2018. So
Gotcha.
yeah, 7 years ago, more or less.
Okay, so it sounds like there was this original idea to the sort of let me try to repeat back to you and you can correct the parts that I've inevitably gotten wrong. So you the founders of the project were sort of separately working on pipelines. They get together, they decide, oh, let's collaborate on pipelines. Um, and you get looped in early on. And then there's like a couple years where they're working on that, and then it turns into is like Nextflow a separate project or like a different iteration of the project? Like what's the distinction?
Uh, so, so Nextflow is the programming language that is like the workflow manager that we are all using to write our pipeline with. So that will
Gotcha.
be the programming language that we are all using, and basically it allows us to interface with every executors that we want so that people can work locally on their laptop and develop their pipeline like quite easily. It can work on your own HPC cluster at your university. It can work on the cloud like AWS, Microsoft Azure, or Google Life Science. And it's pretty simple. So Nextflow allows you to work with Conda, Docker, Singularity, or any other kind of virtual environment or like containerization that you would want. So that way we are sure that whatever he's doing is reproducible. Because for me, that's one of the key points into doing science. If no one can reproduce it, like what are we doing?
Amazing. Yeah. No, I have a background in the sciences, and so in psychology, which has had some real extreme issues with reproducibility. So I totally get the importance of that. Um, cool. Okay. So just checking in on my questions.
Oh, yeah. And before we begin, the name NF Core come from NF from Nextflow. Pretty simple there. And core, it was because it started by core facilities, so sequencing platforms that were just doing like basic analysis pipeline. And all of the pipelines that we had at NGI at the time started as just like pipeline for quality control that just piled on and like doing a bit more of analysis because for us it was just simpler to do stuff. And
Yeah.
that's why we help kickstart for our users their analysis.
What does NGI stand for?
NGI, that's for National Genomic Infrastructure, and that's one of the multiple infrastructure within SciLife Lab, Science for Life Laboratory, which is the main support of research here in Sweden.
Excellent. Um, cool. What would you say? It sounds like reproducibility is a big goal for the project. What are some other sort of like high level goals for the project?
For me, the main stuff is reproducibility. Second stuff will be collaboration, because we like it all started by collaborating and by not trying to do the same stuff like the same stuff at different location, really trying to collaborate together to work and to pile on. And so for me, yes, roboticity will be the main stuff. Collaboration will be the second main idea into NFCore.
And who would you say are sort of the different stakeholders in the project, whether that's users, contributors, funders, and also like with a broad brush, like because you could say people who benefit from bioinformatics research are in some sense a stakeholder.
Yeah, so for me, I would say like so I will say like the people that are interested in this project are the people that are using this project. So mainly that will be like either researchers or sequencing platform or even some clinicians are using some of the pipelines that we're writing,
What was the
or
third?
even some
What was the third you said?
clinician,
Researcher,
clinician
frequency platforms, and
clinicians, like medical doctors that
oh,
work
clinicians.
in a
Yeah, yeah.
clinical setting. Yeah, clinicians. Sorry, my pronunciation is bad.
Much better than my
But
pronunciation would be in any other language, so no worries.
Totally. I think we decided when we launched NF Core to have like all of our pipeline work in MIT license. That way, if people want to commercialize uh, just running the pipeline, they could. So in such a sense, even some like private company are running an F-core pipeline, sometimes participating into it, sometimes not. But we are fully aware of that and we embrace that like fully. So I would say even some big pharma company are like interested into an F-core and there are like some collaboration ongoing.
Do you have a sense of how the companies that are using NF Core, like how they're using it?
Uh, Personally, not much because like it's all on GitHub. So every pipeline that we have that is public, we know how many times that it's been forked or cloned. But apart from that, we don't know. I know for sure that there is a lot of dark stuff happening that we are not aware of. But I think it's good.
Yeah. That's something that's come up in some of the projects that I've participated in or maintained, the sort of like, great, we know how many downloads we have, but like we don't know anything about what anyone is doing with those downloads and like the sort of like black hole sometimes that it feels like um, you can have towards users. Cool. So you said uh, what was it? Researchers, platforms, clinicians, some companies that are using it. What, I guess I have sort of two different questions. What of those stakeholders do you think is like the largest group? And then what stakeholders would you say you interact with the most or have the most direct impact on you?
So for me personally, I interact mostly with either the people that develop the pipeline. So that will be mainly like the researcher or the maintainer of the pipeline. So people like me more or less. And I do interact quite a lot with users. And definitely I will say like users are the main group of people.
Cool. Are there any other stakeholders that we haven't talked about?
Um, I think we did cover like we have research, we have researchers, so research group. Uh, People that are using it, so it could be like a sequencing platform or labs, sometimes even university, depending on how it's layered, like in the different countries and stuff like that. Uh, Probably maybe some governmental agencies that might be using that. Like yeah, but I think it's pretty broad and like a lot of stuff. Like usually we know when stuff are not working because people came back to us, but we don't know where when stuff are working because sometimes people came back to us saying, "Okay, what you've done is great, and we're using it." Sometimes we just don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any tensions between stakeholders, not necessarily in terms of like active drama, but just like places where the needs or desires of different groups of stakeholders like might conflict?
No, I haven't noticed that. Like I did notice usually. So the main issue I think we have in terms of like conflict will be like trying to come up with some decision at some point and getting people to try to collaborate together. We have like one major rule in NF Core, which is collaborate, like because collaboration is one of our like major like mantra, let's say, and trying to get people to collaborate could be sometimes difficult. Especially in clinical settings where people have some like specific logics that they need to use in their pipeline like locally, and that it's hard to collaborate with someone that has like a different set of logic that is uh, uh, imposed onto them.
Gotcha. So do you think, well, that sounds a bit like my understanding of how you're describing that is like a sort of like a technical conflict in the sense of like if some people need certain kinds of logic and other people needs other kinds of logic. So is it like a trying to decide? I'm curious about whether we this is something to discuss when we get to like looking at like the repository. versus?
No, for me it's more a question about like let's say we have like one infrastructure that really need to use like a certain set of tools, another infrastructure that need to use like another set of tools, and trying to put like both set of tools like together could be something that could be difficult.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And it isn't always trivially easy to be like, oh, we'll design a thing so that people can decide which of the tools they use, because like designing the
Uh,
interface or whatever can be, sometimes it's easy, but sometimes it's actually way more complicated than just designing
yeah,
the
so
interface.
yeah, one last stuff that I think is important. All of the stuff that we are producing is in command line. So there are some company like Sekera that can provide like a graphical interface for this kind of thing, but most of the stuff, most of the work that we do is just on the command line side.
Gotcha. Cool. Um, So one last question before we dive into the tour itself, which is around spaces. So like what kind of spaces does the project exist in? And feel free to name things that we can't actually explore, like, oh, we get together like once a year at this particular conference, or we have our own convening or whatever. So any sort of space where people in the project are interacting.
Okay, so I will start with the in-person meeting. So let's say like first to explore more the organization itself. So we have a steering committee of like I think it's 5 people at the moment. I could go like deeper into that. That help us like drive like more or less like the direction where we are going. We're a group of admins that is, I think, 12 to 15 people that really try to administrate the project like day to day and solve all of the issue and figure out like how to help people, how to decide stuff and things like that. Um, we have 3 people that are like our safety group that are there whenever there is an issue, and they solve it and they don't reply to us, they directly reply to the steering committee. So I think that's good because like I think it's important for a community to be aware that stuff can happen badly, and if that happen, like stuff are made to make sure that it's handled well. We have one group that is dedicated to outreach, so handling all of our social network and helping organizing the events that we organize. One group of maintainers that is slightly bigger that help maintaining like the whole community, and then everyone else is a contributor. So we take advantage of the Nextflow community quite a lot. So Nextflow exists on the community side mainly on Slack with the Nextflow Slack and on Discourse, which is hosted by Sekera on community.sekera.io, which is basically a forum that is great for asking questions. And they also organize a summit. So once a year in Europe, and this year it will be virtual, and once a year in the US, and it will probably be in Boston again. Uh, just prior to the summit, there is a hackathon that is organized, and that's where people can meet up together and work together on improving whatever we are doing with NF Core, or we help people working on their own project using the NF Core framework or tooling that we have developed.
How long is that? Is that like a day or a week or?
So usually summit is for like 2 to 3 days, and the hackathon will be like for 2 days. And in parallel of the hackathon, there is a team of people from Sekera that's organizing some training as well.
Gotcha. And this is like a
So
standalone event?
it's a conference, and I think in terms of people, there should be like 100 people for the hackathon, more or less, and something similar for the training. And I do think it should be like way more for the actual summit. But yes, this year since it will be like virtual, I'm a bit I'm a bit unaware of the numbers that it will be. We also organize a distributed hackathon. Uh, all over the world that like people can contribute all together. And we try to organize that nicely. So I think in person that's that. Oh yes, and also every 15 to 18 months, all of the admin try to get together so that we can discuss and we can like do stuff together and like think on some stuff. And we just met 3 weeks ago here in Stockholm.
Cool, cool. Do you find that uh having that sort of like focus time um is helpful? Because it seems like if you're also like putting on like a big summit with a hackathon and trainings and all of these things, that having a sort of separate time to like get heads down. Um,
Yes, no, definitely that's useful. We talk like quite to each other. So on NF Core we have Slack, and we that's our main network of communication, and we have like multiple channel all over the place, and we have like one channel for us like administrator, and we talk with each other there like quite a lot. And but I do think that yes, with like since COVID, we know that how great it can be like to work remotely, to communicate to each other like via Zoom and things like that, and it's great. But sometimes you feel that yes, nothing can beat like discussing like face to face to someone else.
yeah. Yeah, I guess I was thinking about that. It just always looking out for patterns for what seems to work for projects. And it sounds like um, Nextflow, like NF Core, is like a relatively larger project as far as open source projects go. And I know for Python, like the Python language, at a certain point, for a while they were doing a lot of like language work at PyCon, like the big flagship conference. And at a certain point, they were like, actually, let's just make it a separate thing because the conference itself becomes so much that having a sort of separate space to just where you're just focused on talking through technical things or like um, working through whatever issues or conflicts. And again, when I use conflict, I don't necessarily mean like drama of people shouting at each other, just like when people have two different needs and they have to work out how to get those needs met. Um, so yeah, I think this may be like a life cycle going on because I think for smaller projects it's actually common. And I asked a question about this, which was like I think for many projects, you start out co-locating at someone else's conference. You're like, oh, we're all going to be at PyCon. We're all going to be at this like scientific conference. Why don't we, during the existing hackathon or sprint, or maybe come a day before and just meet up? And then as projects get bigger, they start doing their own thing. And then projects might get so bigger that their own thing is actually not the best space for them to get work done. And it's more a space for like the community as a whole. So it's like the life cycle of projects as they get bigger and bigger. Yeah.
Yeah, I think at the moment we are still like very tied to Nextflow. Like the ties between like Nextflow and Fcore like are pretty like strong. Like a lot of like obviously, but yes. So I think at the moment we are still like pretty tied to that. But I think years ago we were doing the training like at NF Core. Nowadays the training is handled like by Sekera, so that's one less thing that we're doing. But definitely what we're doing that is distributed, that is like completely disconnected from like anything like from the main Nextflow conference are the distributed hackathon. We still have local hackathon that are like tied into the conferences where we just have a smaller group of people focused. But when we do our global distributed hackathon, we try to get local group to self-organize and to have hackathon. So I think we are getting towards that direction. And definitely, I agree. Like it's such like it's what happened in the life cycle of such a large project.
Cool. So, do you have a sense of what space would be the best space to start touring? Um,
Uh, I think the first good space will be like just our website, actually.
all right, if you want to go ahead and start sharing.
Yeah, let me try to figure out. Okay, up. Okay, so
I
our
believe I turned sharing on, but let me know if it's saying you can't.
screen, entire screen. Okay, I'm so wait. I'm sharing my entire screen, I believe. Yep.
It is just coming up black for me.
It is just coming up black. Okay, so let me try again then.
Yeah.
Sharing. Okay, share screen, entire screen. Ah, okay,
It's still trying.
okay,
Oh, there we go. Great.
okay, there you go. Okay, so I think a good place like to begin is our website. That's where every information is, where we present NF Core. So we are a community that collaborate open source Nextflow component and pipeline. Uh, this is what we do. We have like organization, user and developers. We have some publications, so that's good. This is all of the rules that we have like for our pipeline, what we want to do for the pipeline, and everything that we do is community owned. And I think for us that's really important. So yes, I did say that what was important for us was being reproducibility, uh, collaboration, but also openness. Definitely, openness is one of the biggest, important, one of the big important thing for us. We list on our website our events. We have some weekly or no bi-weekly talks that we call bite size, where we present like anything that could happen in the community, whether it's a new pipeline that has been released or someone wants to present something or represent some new stuff in the community. Uh, I we have yes, community. We have a blog post. We have a blog that we can share like some news about it. This is all the events that we have at the moment. So the next coming event that we will have will be the hackathon in Barcelona. There are some trainings that are being organized, but I think these are the trainings that are organized in the community. But because some of us are like part of NF Core and Nextflow community, like it's all tied in together. Uh, mm, Also, one last stuff that is interest. Oh yes, we have some special interest groups that are that we help and that we host at NF Core, so that we can help group of community members that are interested into working on a particular aspect of NF Core to work together. And I think especially the one that was the most that really led to that was the group working on animal genomics.
Cool. How many of these special interest groups are there? It looks like there's a couple of domain ones,
Uh,
a couple of.
Yeah, really domain specific. So we have one on cancer, we have one for core facilities, we have one dedicated to education, immunology. We try to make we basically we have a process for that. So I can just go to GitHub. So our community is quite big. We have more than 1,000 and we have almost like 1,600 people on our GitHub organization. We have a bit less of like 200 repository. And one of the latest repositories that we created was proposal. Proposals where where like anyone in the community can make like new proposal, whether it's a new pipeline, a new special interest group, or a new request for comment. And that's the way that we can use to improve whatever has been done by the community, what is done in the community by the community.
How many, I'm curious, it seemed like there was approximately a dozen special interest groups. I'm curious about how many pipelines you have and
Oh, yes.
RFCs.
So pipeline at the moment, so we have in total, so pipelines that have been released, it's 84. Pipelines that are under development, that's 43. And we have 12 pipelines that have been archived. Usually, when a pipeline has been archived, it means that it's either it has been merged into another pipeline, or the technology is no longer available, and then
Gotcha. It's
it's no
not
longer
updated
delivered.
anymore or anything.
Yeah, not updated anymore, but we keep the code there because of like reproducibility. And at first, we were really working towards bioinformatics and genomics, but we keep branching into like other field, such as proteomics, which is still like pretty much related to bioinformatics. We are doing a lot of imaging. We started branching in other field of science, such as satellite imagery and even economics.
Very cool. I noticed you had a neuroimaging special interest group, which is I actually learned to code back in, gosh, 2008, 2009, because I was working in a neuroimaging lab and you had to learn how to use
Yeah, I think
you have to learn how to
yeah
program
we have a,
the data.
yeah
So
I
I have a
think
special fondness
the
for
we have sorry we have a pipeline that is currently being worked on about like cell paintings that really help us like look at imagery data. So that one was quite interesting.
neat. Yeah, it's been like a good 15 years since I've done any neuroimaging, but
Oh,
yeah. I mean, part of me wishes maybe it would be fun to go find some of my old colleagues and be like, I just want to ride along for a couple days just to see where things are at. Because I know there's just been huge changes in um the kinds of open source projects that exist as well as the general like tool set available in scientific fields in general as well as neuroimaging specifically between something like 2010 and 2025, just a tremendous amount of change. Um,
oh yeah, no, the fields are like evolving like quite a lot and quite fast. So yes, no, that's impressive.
Um, where are your RFCs?
Oh yes, sorry. So RFCs, at the moment issues. If I look at label new RFC, okay, at the moment we have 13 RFCs that are like open. I created like a few because I'm quite interested. I'm quite involved into this community and I really like coding and doing stuff. But other of my colleagues are involved into that, and other just member of the community have been like involved into. I've been involved and I've been involved into that. I think the latest RFC that was merged in that we actually use was advisory that basically just catalog and list all of the regression, incompatibility, and security announcement about what was wrong and what is no longer working in some of the pipelines that we have.
This is great. I feel like sometimes it can be really hard to figure out if there's a problem with an upstream library, where exactly the issue is. So having like this dedicated area
Yeah, no,
allow.
no, definitely that was super useful, and it was proposed like it was proposed not that long ago because we started like all of that like recently. Yes, it was proposed in June like this year because I think we just started working on RFC in May. So it was proposed in June and it was accepted like quite fast because and then we started like putting some information there.
I mean, sometimes people just come up with a good idea and everyone's like, yeah, that's a good idea. We should do it immediately.
Yeah, but then sometimes it takes more time.
Yeah, that's true. And that's not necessarily because it's a bad idea. Sometimes you just need to take longer discussing something. I'm curious about, can we go back to the proposals? There was one I was particularly
Yes,
intrigued
of
by.
course.
I think it was an open one.
Uh, yeah.
Yes, code owner for pipelines. Can you tell me a little bit more about that one?
Ah, yeah. So that's one that actually is so all of our all of our code for our pipeline is on GitHub. It's on NFCore. So let me, if I just go back to join NFCore, so we have Slack that we use daily. GitHub, this is where all of our code is hosted. We communicate with everyone on Mastodon, Blue Sky, LinkedIn, and often on YouTube as well. And often when we have some meeting together, we used to use Gatherton, but we are switching toward like something else at the moment. And I don't think we have anything. I think we are working with Work Adventure at the moment, but nothing like I don't think we have taken any decision on that side yet. So speaking about the pipeline, one of the pipelines that I'm involved with is Sarek. So one thing important about NF Core, all of the pipeline should have a completely boring name that really describe what the pipeline is about. So let's say another pipeline that I'm involved in, which is called RNA-seq, is doing some RNA sequencing. So RNA-seq. That's very simple. That's very boring. That's exactly what we want. We had a couple of exceptions to that rule, which is one is Sarek, which is a pipeline that has to do with sequencing as well, but from whole genome sequencing or targeted sequencing. And that name existed before NF-Core, so it had a community before NF-Core. So it's one of the few pipelines that have this name that is a non-descriptive name. And what we decided with code owner, if we look at some code, is that we decided that so that's me and Rike, the other main developer of the pipeline, to be responsible and to make sure that we can check wherever a new PR has been made to our repo. And this RFC is just saying, okay, we just want to allow to make people aware that this is possible and that we should be doing that for the pipeline that wants to be doing that. I don't think this RFC is really necessary because like some pipeline are already doing that already, and it was just for me just a way to formalize that idea.
Gotcha. So is there, I guess I'm curious about what types of problems having a designated co-owner solves. So for example, something that I could imagine being the kind of problem this would help with is if you have, you know, what was it, like 80 pipelines that are active and like 40 more that are in progress, that sometimes people would not be, that's got to be a lot of different like sort of lead maintainers of those pipelines. And if something needs updating and that person is not available, maybe there's not another person who can do it. So like it might make sense to have code owners from a reliability perspective and maybe possibly like require a certain amount of responsiveness or activity from them. But that's a little bit me projecting onto you and the project based on my experiences. So I'm curious about whether that's something that you've thought
Yes.
about at all with regard to this, or if there are other sort of goals that
Uh,
client ownership would help.
for for us, I think like this code owner was more in a way of safekeeping and making sure that people that are responsible for a pipeline can like safeguard the pipeline toward what people could from the community could put in the pipeline and make sure that it adheres to whatever the main developer of the pipeline is actually thinking in the way of the pipeline. It's more for me, it's more a way to control and make sure that uh, nothing too out of like too extraordinary is happening into a pipeline that should not happen without the main developer and the main maintainer of that pipeline being aware of. And of course, it definitely like owned by the community. So whatever people want to do in the pipeline is completely open, and we usually work with each other quite often. And I like even I often make some small pull requests to other pipelines that I'm completely not responsible for, just to help other people. So that's something that can happen. But in such a case, because I'm both a maintainer and an administrator for the community, I don't need like such a code owner like ownership because yes, I don't have this. I have like specific powers that have been like imparted onto me. But definitely for other people, that's something that could be interested. And I think that's why we wanted like to do that, to make sure that, okay, if you do that, then I want to make sure that I can see the pull request happening. And that's why I can ask, okay, you've done that, that is good, but maybe we need to add that. We need to add some tests. We need to make sure that everything works well. Let's update the documentation as well, and so on.
So is each pipeline a GitHub repository within the organization?
Exactly. So all of the repositories that we have, them, most of them are for pipeline. So Sarek, this is this is the pipeline that I've been working on. MC Micro, that's another pipeline. That's like other pipeline. This is our website. This is all of the configurations that can be used at multiple institutions. That's really something that is specific to Nextflow and not specific to NF Core. Actually, people outside of NF Core can use this configuration to parameterize their like and to control their own Nextflow pipeline. Modules that will be like some specific components that are the building block of all of our pipeline. Sorry, module.
No worries.
Let's say like here, I'm looking at a module. So a module for me, and I will look at one of the ones that I know the most. A module will be just the smallest unit of block that we can do, and that just execute command line.
Gotcha. And it looked like
And
from looking at the repositories that they get updated quite frequently. Like all of the ones that you were looking at were, which were at the top, so the most recently updated, but they were all updated today. So it sounds
yeah,
like
no,
a lot of
definitely. This repository is the one that is updated like the most often, and it's the repository that is used all over the place by everyone. Because the way that we did stuff at NF Core is that you don't need to have an NF Core pipeline to use NF Core. NF Core is at the same time the pipeline that we built, the community, but also all of the components that we have built around Nextflow and around NF Core, and all of the tooling that we help develop. So for me, the module will be just the building bricks that we can use to build our pipeline. And we have modules which should be like the small units, sub workflow, which will be like an assembly of multiple modules and that we can use to import in our pipeline.
Gotcha. So the can you go back to the list of repositories?
Yes.
Gotcha. So some of these other ones are like specific, like differential abundance is a pipeline, I'm guessing.
Yeah, differential component is a pipeline. Tools that will be like the Python package that we built with helper tools for the NFCore community. And with tools came like one of the most center stuff for community, which is basically what we call the template, which is a skeleton that we use for all of our pipeline. That way, we know that our pipeline have a more or less a common structure and are easy to review, even if you don't know the underlying like science or like the underlying like logic behind the pipeline. If they all follow the same structure, it's easier to review.
Can we go into one of the specific pipelines? Could be the differential abundance one, could be something that's just
Yes.
like just an average pipeline. Um, how many, so it looks like a lot of the files haven't been touched in a while, but it did get updated today.
Yeah,
Wonder,
so a lot of file. So this pipeline. So this we are looking at the master branch. So that will be the latest release. If you want to look at what is happening in development, we need to check the dev branch, and we can see that some stuff happened yesterday.
gotcha, gotcha.
So
Is the
so
stuff, yeah,
no, no.
is
So
the,
this is a like I would say it's not one of the it's one not one of it's I think it's one of our like top pipeline. I think we can sort it by yes we can sort in terms of popularity. So the Ionic pipeline would be like the most famous pipeline. Sarek will be the second one, And then I think differential abundance should be not that far done because it's quite,
So
yeah, differential abundance.
does each pipeline have its own sort of release process? Is it standardized across the pipelines? Um,
Uh,
and
yeah, the release process is standardized across pipeline.
gotcha. And do you have sort of, is it sort of like delegated, like, um, there's someone who is a maintainer on the GitHub repository that has the ability to like click the merge button on the pull requests, or how does that get structured?
So basically, any the way that we work at the moment, and that's one of the stuff that we've been talking when we were meeting, like the administrator, the core team, as we say, is so basically the way that we do a release. Let me just check with the pipeline that is currently in the process of being released. So we have a PR that is doing the release that merge all of the commit from dev to master. And as we can see on this particular pipeline, so this pipeline is quite a beast, quite a monster. The latest release was 8 months ago. And this is the new release that is coming on, and we can see that there are a lot of file change.
Gotcha. And do you have a sense of how long there is between releases?
It really depends from like one pipeline to the other. I think the way that I think it really depends on the people that are developing the pipeline. If you manage to have like a team of people that is working with you, or if you're all alone on your pipeline. And it depends also on the size of the pipeline. Some pipeline can be released like more often. Also depending if there are like more bug fixes or if like all of the underlying tools have been updated or some of the API from the tool that we are using gets changed or something like that. Like a lot of the pipelines that we do are dependent on the tools that other people have been developing. So we are collaborating quite a lot with other communities as well.
For the pipelines, do they have, well, you have these other repositories like modules and tools. Are those things that are getting used within the pipelines?
Yes, definitely. So the way that let's go back to differential abundance because that was our example. So I showcased before the module repo, and if I look at here in module, here all of these folder are modules that have been imported from the module repo.
Are they like live imports or symbolic limps, or did they get copied at some point?
They have been copied. They have been copied. So the way that we work with that, we have a JSON file that lists for every module where it's coming from. So we know that these modules are coming from NF Core because you could have your own fork of the module repo. Let's say you're a private company that wants to do some specific stuff that you don't want to be putting into like into the wild. So you can have your own stuff made there, or you're just working on some experimental stuff and you don't want it to be like public yet, or like you could do whatever you want. And basically for each of these module, we have the Git commit that correspond to the latest time that it was updated. So basically, we re-implemented an installer to grab like all of the code from the module repo into this other repo.
I'm curious
And we
about,
decided, yeah, sorry.
no, go ahead, finish your thought.
No, we decided to do that because we figured it would be more efficient for us to have actual real code into our pipeline than to have like a Symlink or Git module. We noticed that sometimes it might not have been like as efficient as we wanted.
Makes sense. When did you sort of come up with this standardized modules.json syntax and like this feels like it was a solution to something and wouldn't have been there from the very beginning. And I'm curious about like
Yeah,
where it arose and like how you decided to go this route.
no, definitely it wasn't there at the beginning. So at the beginning, Nextflow had like another syntax, which we call DSL1. And at that time, we had no shared module. It's when we came up with, it's when Nextflow came up with the new version of the syntax, which is DSL2, that we came with the module repo. And we came up with that by a lot of discussion into figuring out like, okay, how do we want to name things? How do we want to put them? What should be a module? How should a module be composed? And how do we want to organize everything? And yeah, that all led to the creation of this repo uh, that like host all of the file for Nextflow DSL2.
I'm
And
guessing,
I think it's yeah, and I
go
think this
ahead,
started in 2020. Sorry.
2020. Um, I'm guessing from the naming schema that DSL2 and DSL1 uh, were not compatible and that like switching from one to another like required whole migration progress.
Yes, the migration was a bit hard. I think some of the old pipeline might be still held back in DSL1. So the main issue with that is that if your pipeline is still stuck in DSL1, you cannot use the latest version of Nextflow. You have to use like a previous version of Nextflow, but that's not really a problem because it's easy to install anyway, and it's easy to just use and like switch version.
I feel like major migrations are one of the biggest challenges that communities can face and they can take forever. So I'm curious about your thoughts about the migration um, that you guys went through and the sort of process you undertook, if you have any sort of like best practices or lessons you learned from it that you think
Uh, yes, so we we went through like a lot of different migrations. So I think the first one was DSL1 to DSL2. That was a big one, and it took us like some time. I think for Sarek, it took us like quite a while. I don't really remember like how long it took us, but it took us like several months because nothing was like you had to migrate like everything at once, and that was the
mm,
issue. Some other migration were definitely easier, but it was complex to put into full usage. So let's say for the module repo, what we do, we test every module separately as its own unit. We are very dedicated to our testing, and we do try to test everything so that we make sure that everything works and that we don't risk to install stuff that is not working in the pipeline. So every PR that we make on the module repo needs to be successful and need to make sure that it works well. So if I have a look at this PR, I have no idea what happened there, but I can look at the PR. I can look, okay, it handled like a specific input for a specific tool. And I can see that here some tests were not working. I can see that some people made some review comment on how to improve stuff. And this is a long PR actually. Sorry,
no
but
worries.
I could see that in the end there was some code that was updated. And here we have all of our tests that ran through. Here we had like 58 different tests and they all went through. And one of the major stuff that we started working, I think it was 2 years ago maybe, was migrating all of our test infrastructure from PyTest. which is like a testing framework in Python that we basically revert that we use to help us like work with Nextflow. It was a bit of a hack, so it was not that helpful. And then some people in the community developed NFTest, and we've been using that ever since. And that's a dedicated framework that is wrapped around Nextflow, and that help us to work with. That help us write our test. And we did this whole migration over the last like was it 2 years or was it more? I don't remember about that. But yes, we undergo that whole migration and we just finished that like a couple of months ago.
I'm curious about, this might be a bit of a digression, but whatever, there are no rules. I'm curious about the NF test, like what changes or customizations you made that PyTest didn't have, or that like, what is it like? Yeah, I'm just curious about how you customize your tests.
Yeah, so basically, so what we do at the module level, we really do unit test. So we want to make sure that let me maybe I can find like an old pull request that has to do some PyTest stuff. PyTest. Yes, let's look at this one, for example. So the way we were doing, okay, so that's the script itself, so we don't really care. That's the NF test, so we'll be looking into that later. Okay, so that's the way that we are writing our test before. So basically, that's the hack that we found to wrap our module as a single unit and to allow us to execute that. We were executing all that within PyTest, and basically that was the command that we were using. And from that command, this is the output that we were checking. So that was how we were doing stuff before in PyTest. The way that we do stuff now with NSTest, basically we write the test directly within the new framework. And that's the way that we write tests here. Yes. Right, yes. So we import the script that is just one layer up, one folder up. We want to run this particular process. Here we give some specific argument to the pipeline on how it should be working or not. And here we want to capture all of this information and print that into a snapshot. And here, if I look at the snapshot, I can see some in MD5 content for some specific file. And that's really what we want to know. And that way is definitely more easier for us because we don't hard code like any particular MD5 here in the file. So it's much easier for us to update compared to what we were doing before, where we had to run this once, check what was the MD5 sum and put it in the test.
Gotcha, gotcha. Switching gears back to the RFCs, maybe. I'm
Yeah.
curious about talking about a what one of the most like either controversial or just like most participated in community decisions you've made is. So maybe that's like the RFC with the most comments, but maybe it's not actually an RFC at all, or maybe it's got fewer comments, but they're really intense comments. I'm just curious about like a decision that you had to make that's been something where it wasn't quick and easy. So it doesn't necessarily have to have been like full of drama, but like something that people really had to talk things through.
Yeah, no, I think if I'm looking at something that could be like like a bit more controversial, it will be more in uh, can I sort into total comment? Yeah, definitely. I think for me it will be more pipeline proposal. Pipeline proposal. So this one was accepted, and the discussion went on into like is there an overlap with other pipeline? If there was an overlap, like what is the overlap? Can we do like can we contribute into that? Then there was some more question about what the pipeline is actually doing. How should we organize the pipeline, and so on. And we decided in the end that okay, there are like some stuff that are like pretty similar to other pipeline, but it's different enough that it should be like its own pipeline. And yes, so for us, like the discussion really went on with multiple people from the community that went on and like discussed why this one should really be into NF Core. And what we really like at NF Core is for our pipeline, we like to make a nice subway map.
Oh, it's so cute. So what was the end result that it got created as a separate pipeline?
Yes, so the end result was this one was accepted as its own pipeline. Because definitely I can see label accepted, so this one was accepted. I think we just started to roll out like a system. I think yes, we just started to roll out like a system where we can approve things. Ah yes, and no, we are waiting for like a particular quorum to approve or not. And I can see that the bot was not working on this particular PR. So yes, some stuff that we need to fix still. Yeah.
Is that like a custom bot you created?
Yeah, we created a custom bot. That's one of the multiple like other repos that we have here in NF Core. A lot of the repo are pipeline. Some of the repo are helper tool that help us with the pipeline, but also some of the other things
Yeah, and you had like a
like
website
this.
one.
Sorry.
You also had like a website repo and like yeah. So
Yeah,
it's
we have a
most are
website repo.
pipelines, but some are other things that are not pipelines.
We have GitHub Actions that help us like set up our test. We have specific scripts for infrastructure. Oh yes, I forgot the infrastructure team as well. That is really dedicated to help us with all of the infrastructure. And yes, another team that I forgot was the team that we just created like recently that is dedicated to our documentation.
Cool. And then what kind of things does the bot do in general?
So the bot help us. So that's very interesting. Let's have a look at. Yes, I always take this pipeline as an example because it's the one that I've been working like quite a lot
No, it
with
makes
that.
sense. Perfect.
Wait, no, sorry, author, it will be bot. So basically, the bot will help us into making the new PR that are updating the skeleton, the template. And the bot creates the PR, and this is all automated. And once the PR has been like done, I can have a look into it, checking what the merge conflict are and fixing all of the stuff, and then continue working until everything works well. And sometimes it takes a while. But yeah.
Can
The
you
other
scroll
stuff
up?
that yeah,
Can you scroll up to the sort of original post? See what
yeah,
the bot said.
origin. Yeah, this one is a bit. There should be like just the one, but yes. So the bot has done like all of this commit, but we've been using this pipeline as a testing repo. So maybe another pipeline will be like if we check again at the differential abundance, that will be easier to check what the bot has been doing.
So it opened
Like
this on all the repos.
open this one, there is just one peer that is open. I can see that there is some conflict that hasn't been resolved yet.
And the template, is that the PR templates or is it like an NF core template? Or a
So
template.
it's what I call template will be like the skeleton that we use for our pipeline. And that's something that we try to keep up to date with the update that are coming to the Nextflow syntax. And basically, we are 6 months after like every Nextflow release and every stuff that is coming in Nextflow and that are mature. We incorporate them into NF Core, and usually we lag like 6 months behind.
Gotcha.
And
Okay, so
that's part of the we have part of some of the RFC we have at the moment are dedicated actually to that. Uh,
when there's
and
a syntax update to um, the templates, that impacts all the pipelines. And so once that decision's been made through whatever process, I don't know whether it's always an RFC or whether it's something that maybe one of the committees or teams that you talked about earlier does. But like once that decision gets made, then you can roll that out to all of the pipelines through this bot that sort of like opens up a pull request on every repo with the syntax changes.
Exactly. So basically, the way it works is that every time, so here, this is the Python package that we help with a lot of helper tools that help us to automate as much as we can. Because I think most of us come from bioinformatics, and I like to say that we are lazy, and we try to automate stuff as much as possible.
Yeah. I don't know if you have this, probably not, but there's something in the US and I think maybe England too called a lazy Susan, which is like a thing that it's like a thing that rotates. So you can put it on a table and you can put like salt and pepper, like mustard or ketchup or whatever on it. And then instead of someone having to like pick something up and hand it to you, you can just rotate it. Anyway, it's called a lazy Susan, but I always call them efficient Susans because it's just being efficient.
Yeah. No, actually, I like that. So basically, here in this repo, so we have a lot of Python code, and then we have what we call our like a pipeline template that anyone can use to build a pipeline, whether it's a pipeline that is for an F-core, so for our usage here in the community, or maybe even for your own pipeline that exists outside of the community. A lot of people are using the NFCore template to build pipeline because it's built in with like a lot of stuff. And we build the template in such a way that it's highly modular and you can set up a lot of stuff or you can disable a lot of stuff. I think it might be tracing, maybe, let me try to see. Yes, okay. Wait, I think the command is pipe. So the team behind NF Core Tools has built like a wonderful graphical interface in the terminal that helps you like build the pipeline. And basically, here, if you create your pipeline, you can say, okay, it's a pipeline that is for NF Core, or it's a pipeline that is custom. And if it's custom, you type in like whatever you want for your pipeline. You write the description, you write the name, and then you can decide which feature you want to use or which feature you don't want to use. So should it be like something that is on GitHub or not? Does it has a badge? Do you want a changelog, a license? Do you want an MIT license file? Do you want test? And everything and so on. So we kind of like we build the whole stuff around that so that the whole template is fairly modular and easy to use for any newcomers.
Yeah, this looks incredible. I also really appreciate that, like on the very first page, it said something along the lines of, if you want this pipeline to be an NF core, like, please talk to us first.
Yeah, that's one of the most issues that we have. I think that's one of our main issue is that often people come with a pipeline that is like fully complete, and we are like a community that is like collaboration first. And for me, if someone comes with a pipeline that is fully complete, maybe it's something that we missed and that it should have been like a collaboration at the very beginning. So that's something that we try to work on and to improve. So yeah, that's why it's listed like everywhere because we want to make sure that okay, people collaborate before they do anything.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is a really important, and I don't know if there's any completely universal best practice, but a near universal best practice. I feel like there's very few
Yeah.
things. where you don't benefit from talking to the community and the maintainers ahead of time because having to go back and make huge changes that could have easily been prevented because by just having a conversation and being in touch with them from the beginning.
Mm.
Very
And
bad.
and also I think like one of the big force of like making a pipeline proposal like very early is that you could find like other people that are interested into the pipeline and gaining like early on some other collaborator or other contributors towards that pipeline, and that will really be helpful towards the quality of the code actually.
Yeah. All right, we're sort of getting, I booked off 90 minutes for this, and also I feel like there's only so long anyone could possibly want to work this. So I feel like we should start wrapping up, even though there's 1,000 additional questions I have for you. I
Uh,
wonder,
yeah,
is
no.
there an area or a topic that you think we should go over before wrapping up?
Yeah, one last thing that I wanted to say was like part of the documentation. So we have some documentation that is quite central about what we should do, like in the community, some contribution. We have contribution about like NF test, about like all of our component. We give out some advice about which code, like how we code, how people should be contributing. We have some guideline, we have some tutorial. We collaborate quite often as well with the Nextflow community and with people at Sekera. So we have training that has been like made and that is like amazing. Definitely, we recommend like this training for every newcomer, like in Nextflow. Uh, Quickly, oh yes, and what I wanted to say, we have documentation. We have documentation about graphic design, and especially for the workflow diagram and for the subway map. That was a workflow diagram. Ah, yes, we have some subway map as well here. And yes, basically that's all of the stuff that we have done is there. And I think yes, one of the ones that I'm the most proud of would be like this subway map that is animated.
Oh, wow. Oh, that's incredible. I love it.
Yes, it's made in pure SVG, so it works without any problem anywhere.
Incredible. Incredible. Sorry, I'm very distracted by this animation, which I feel like I could watch.
Yeah, sorry.
No, it's great. I might just come back to it later and just like stare at it and meditate.
Yeah. Oh yes, I talk about this is how we are organized as a maintenance, as the whole community. And I think, yes, we have some statistic as well, obviously. Phil loves statistics, so that's why we have like a lot of statistic and seeing the whole like community in numbers in terms of like Slack, GitHub, Twitter, or whatever. I think the pipeline numbers. Oh yes. So we can see yes, we have a lot of pipelines that have been like released or in development, and I think we are like almost getting like towards a plateau. I think maybe I don't know. I think only time will tell.
I had a couple more questions. For your, it looks like you have a bunch of different ways for people to start contributing. Do you feel like there are some common, like new contributor pathways that are um, particularly successful or like common pathways for people to take?
I will say usually like the first way that people communicate with us will be like either on GitHub by creating an issue when something is not working, or coming like towards us on Slack. Oh, I didn't show Slack as well. Uh, yeah, so this is Slack. So I'm on every possible Slack channel that we have in this group in this workspace. So I have a lot of stuff going around. Basically, we have a dedicated Slack channel for every pipeline, and for some pipeline, we have a dedicated dev channel so that the people that are actively developing that pipeline can work together. And then uh, I have some specific like private group because I like creating channel, and then I
Mhm.
created like many other channel. Uh, yes, we created a channel to just request review because that's what like we're community first. So if you need someone to review your code for NF code, you can ask people to review your code there. We have channel where we can just be angry at stuff and like just rant and saying, okay, this stuff is not working today. And I think the yes, we have a channel where we just thank people, saying, okay, this people is an amazing person, and they've been really helpful. So yes,
I
we've
love
we've
this.
been like yes, I think we are quite a good community where like I haven't seen like much issues. Like I'm not aware of any issue in the community. I know that we have a safety group. I know that they have replied to some stuff and they have worked towards stuff, but I have no idea what happened because it wasn't that. At least, like from my own understanding, it wasn't that big of a deal that us, the core member, had to intervene towards it. So
Yeah.
I think we're a pretty benevolent community, and I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah. And it's also true that like part of what enables people to be happy in a community is knowing that there are spaces for conflicts to get worked out and for issues to get handled. So often having like a space where people feel happy and celebrate each other and are kind to each other goes hand in hand with also having spaces where there are issues. Because anything of significant size, and this is definitely a significant size, is going to have some kinds of conflicts or issues. So, yeah.
No, no, definitely. Uh,
A couple of other quick questions. So you have the maintainers of pipelines. I'm curious in general, often projects will have problems with getting people who can step into those kind of maintainer or leadership roles. I'm curious if that's an issue you've ever had, or if you have like any sort of systems, processes, cultural things in place to sort of help folks go from someone who's just joining the community to someone who's taking more of a leadership role.
I don't think we like basically the main stuff, the main way that we work with that will be uh, pipeline really depend on the people that work on their pipeline. And yes, I'm just showing this recent article because it showed where was it? Crash. Ah, wait, it was in the preprint. Uh, okay, so where is the pre 2020 main publication? Okay, yes. Anyway, what I wanted to say was the main issue I think for the pipeline is that often we have like people that are really dedicated towards the pipeline because they're doing either a PhD, a postdoc, or it's a pipeline that is being useful for a specific infrastructure. So if you find collaborator into that, then multiple people can work onto that. For some specific pipeline, you can see that the contributor have been like shifted over from people to people. I think we can see that pretty well with the RNA-seq pipeline. If I look at the collaborator, oh, if I look, no, not the collaborator, it was the inside, sorry. Contributors, that was it. If we look at the contributors list, we can see that Phil, for example, was pretty active like very early on. That we can see that Archil joined in like quite a lot, and he was quite active in 2020 until like 2022. Then we can see that John here joined in like later on, and I joined like later on as well. And we can see that a lot of the contribution can like shift from one pipeline to another. But for me, the pipeline belong to the community, so it's not really like owned by a particular like person, but it's more owned by a group of people. And what we try to do at our level is just to make sure that people can work together and we can help them provide with a good framework where like if someone is no longer developing a pipeline, then people can come and take over it.
Right. Do you have like a process for it? Is it more just like on a case by case basis? You as a
It's more a case to case. It's definitely a case to case basis. I think we had a recent like a proposal. If I remember well. Yes, for example, this one, there was a proposal to create like a new pipeline, but basically this new pipeline would replace a pipeline that was out of date. So we decided, okay, let's just use this new proposal for a pipeline to take over an older pipeline.
Gotcha. So you wouldn't like rename the pipeline, instead you'd sort of merge the changes or give the
Uh, I'm I'm not sure whatever we decided like in the end. I think we said that oh yes, definitely. I think we are going to keep the name of the original pipeline. Wait, stick with the same name repo, but just yeah. So we will keep the name of the original name of the pipeline, which was KSIC, and not use Cashflow because I think KSIC is more like boring.
um in a case where a pipeline just got completely replaced, is that something that would cause breaking changes for people who are using the pipeline, or is the
Uh,
testing?
like until like since like everything is still like every release that ever happened will still be listed on NFCore. We never delete anything. We
Gotcha.
always keep everything there. So everything that has been working is still working and should continue to work until like let's say like Bioconda is broken or Biocontainer is no longer working or all
Yeah.
of the containers that we're using are no longer working anymore.
Gotcha. And users tend to pin to a specific version of some
Definitely,
pipelines.
yes. That's the way that we recommend people to run a pipeline. Let's say for me, sorry, for me here, if I were to run like a pipeline, let's say Nextflow run NFCore,
I think
uh,
you forgot an F.
run next. Oh yes, right. Nextflow NFCore select. I will pin a version using -R. Wait, I don't remember which is the latest version of RNA-seq. 3.21. Oh, and by using like this -R command, I'm really pinning this pipeline to be used like to use a specific version of the pipeline that will correspond to the tag. And that way it works. Nextflow automatically pulls the pipeline. I have never run this pipeline on this computer yet because I just reinstalled my computer recently. So everything just happened. Nextflow will be using like in that particular case Docker to pull in all of the images that we need to run this pipeline, and then the whole pipeline run, and like everything is happening, and my own analysis is done. This is just running a test profile, so it has like small data, so that it should run like more or less fast.
Amazing.
This
All
is
right.
what we use for CI.
One last question, and then I will really end this, even though I don't want to, because we did say 90 minutes. Uh, you have like a fairly developed governance structure, and I'm curious about when that developed and if it developed in response to any sort of impetus in particular.
I think so basically, Phil has created like MultiQC, which is a Python package that Python tool. Yes, I'm bad with Python, so excuse me if I'm like not speaking the right term there. That basically collect all of the reports, all of the metrics that you could get outside of a tool, and generates for you a final report. that we will say a multi-QC report. It's one of the most common tool in bioinformatics because most of the tool produce metrics, and everyone is introducing by seeing metrics to see how your experiment has gone. So the idea is fairly simple, fairly stupid, but super efficient because it works well. It's what everyone wants. So this tool has been one of the mainly used tool everywhere. And I think Phil has seen what happened with this particular project. And he decided that he did not want to be the main responsible for that. And at the very beginning, NF Core was created with a core team of administrator. I think the other team came in like tiny bit by tiny bit when they were needed, and yes, and we are still creating new team because we just created the team dedicated to documentation.
Um, when would you when would you say that change happened? Like what year?
About what the teams?
Yeah, I guess when you were talking about like when did the report start getting created and when did
Ah, oh no, so like you see, that was a previous project from Phil, so I think that started like many years ago. It's completely disconnected from NF Core. Like, it's not completely disconnected. It's like we use it as the final tool for most of the pipeline because most of the pipeline are using the tools that can be used to feed into MultiQC. So for us, we just use that as a final report that you will give to your user, or you will look yourself when you see, okay, this sequencing quality is good, or so on.
Gotcha. Okay, sorry. I think I misunderstood the
Yeah,
relevance.
what I was trying to say is that Phil had experiment with a previous project that he knew how hard it was to handle such a big project by himself. I think he knew that this project was going to be huge and decided right away at the beginning, okay, we are going to be like a team of people that work together and we can do stuff together. And we collaborate and we all take turn into doing things together.
I think it'd be interesting. I don't know if you have this, like some sort of like graph or map of like the number of participants, like over time. Because I think it's
I think we,
relatively rare for project founders to have that level of insight around governance. I feel like the far more common model is someone, I guess, like Phil experienced with that first project of like taking on something by yourself and then being like, oh no, I'm burning out, or this is too much for me, and only then sort of trying to figure out a different governance
yeah,
structure.
so let me check. I know that a colleague of mine, we've been like really talking about that like at the last retreat that we had, and we've been working on some
I feel like you guys
we've
really
been
like
work
cool visualizations, so
yeah, we've been working on some visualization. So the visualization is still like we need to work more on the visualization. So let me try to share my screen one more time. Screen share. Okay. Yes. Oh, that's the one. Okay. So basically, we can see that people were like there were a couple of us at the beginning, and then this is how many we are at the moment, and some people join like for a smaller term, and yes, basically this is more or less what we know about the people that were part of the core team that administrate NFCore.
cool. It seems like you had like a whole group of people to start with, and then a few successive waves of people coming in. And that
Mm.
overall you've grown even though individual people have moved on.
Yeah, and some people moved on because they either like joined some other companies, they switch job, they change completely. Like Kevin, for example, like switch fields completely, so he's no longer like working in bioinformatics. So that's why he's now an alumni. Johannes felt like this project was too big for him, so he didn't join. Andreas was one of the founder with Phil and Alex, but unfortunately, he wasn't able like to continue forward with us, so he dropped pretty early. Yes, Alex left because it was too difficult for him with his new position.
Yeah, and I mean,
What?
all of those are pretty
Yeah,
normal reasons. And I think it's really great that you've set up a system and a community where any one person can take a step back if various life or career related reasons make it not a fit for them
yeah,
anymore. As opposed to there's so many
no, definitely.
projects that are so reliant on one person that that person feels that they need to continue, even if they personally, their needs and their desires no longer match up with the project. So I really appreciate your structure.
Yeah. Usually, what we try to do, we try to list like for each particular team, what are the leads, what are the member and people that used to be like involved in the team. And yes, like the maintainers, I think is one of the biggest team. But I think for us, what is yes, this is all open source, so no one is like we don't own any money ourselves. So I think it's quite important. And yes, we did manage to get some funding from the Chan Zuckerberg initiative years ago, but yes, that's no longer possible,
So are
unfortunately.
most of the people, are most of the people who contribute, they're getting funding through their jobs or their graduate students or professors?
Yeah, yeah. Basically, let's say like currently, I have contributors that are working with me on some pipeline. Basically, it will be they are doing that because they figured it was easier for them to collaborate with us on tiny part on that project than to develop the whole stuff on their side. So it's more okay. Let's contribute to an open source stuff other than let's just do stuff like internally.
Yeah. So in some sense, most of the people who are contributing are paid contributors in the sense that it's part of a job that financially supports them. And it's not like completely unrelated to their financial support volunteer work. But they're not getting paid by you directly. It's a collaborative
Yeah,
process. Yeah.
it's a collaborative process. Yeah, because like we get some funding from some private company to help us, especially with our infrastructure. I think I don't remember who is paying for our Slack, but someone is paying for our Slack. AWS is helping us a lot with our infrastructure. We have like our runners for the CI are being paid by AWS, and also we do some bigger testing, and they're helping us with that. Sekera is contributing quite heavily as well in terms of people that work from time to time on that. And then it really depends on like what people are doing or not. I think we are starting to see maybe a bit more of like freelancers or just like paid contributors that are paid by a company to work on a specific project. And I think the field might evolve into that direction.
Do you have any issues with, I've sometimes seen this in projects I've participated in or just advised on or just viewed from afar, where when you have a model where people are basically being paid by their work to contribute, sometimes that can lead to issues where the things that their company is sort of pushing them to work on are things that are directly related to that company's success. And so things like, for instance, community management or governance or like some stuff can get overlooked because it's either more infrastructural or like quote unquote like soft uh, stuff that's actually really important to the community, but not, it's harder to make a case to your manager or whatever that this is an effective use of your time.
Yeah, no, no, definitely, definitely. Like, I think we are lacking people like in outreach and documentation because yes, it's hard to it's hard to explain to anyone that is paying you how important that is, and explaining to anyone that okay, my contribution to this open source project will be useful for like tons of people is not really interesting. Like the people that are paying me or not, like it's yeah, I might be working a lot for like this organization that is completely like not profit, but yes, the people I work for like should profit from stuff. So yes, it's a bit hard, but yes, I think the people that are working at my level are passionate people, and yes, we're having this talk. It's 8:30 for me,
Oh,
so
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Um,
can see like yes, if I do this kind of stuff, it's a bit outside of my work hour, and I'm used to that because we collaborate with people all around the globe. So I have colleagues in Canada, in New Zealand. So it's hard to find time to work together.
yeah, yeah. Well, I definitely appreciate you taking time to talk with me for over an hour and a half about your project. And I can see from um, the documentation, the structure, the bot, like all of these like thoughtful ways that you've um, like really been taking a sort of global collaborative perspective. Um, and it sounds like that was something that was part of the culture from the beginning, with the founder sort of being like, um, let's not make this all about one person's needs or one person's putting it all on one person's shoulders, but instead making it a group effort. Um, yeah, this was really interesting. I've never done one of these before, so I don't entirely know how to wrap this up. Is there anything else you wanted to add or say?
Uh, no, I think yes, no, I should have like presented like more stuff that we are doing, but yes, we don't have enough time. But yes, definitely, what is fun as well is part of the stuff that we're doing on the outreach side will be like the bite-size talk that we are doing. On the Nextflow side, I know that the Sekera community team is doing some podcasts, which are like quite interesting. So yes, we are collaborating a lot with each other, and we are collaborating also with other community. So yes, no, for me, I think like what is key for me into all of that is trying to be as open as possible, as transparent as possible, try to contribute all together. And yes, because all of that goes toward like the goal of being reproducible. So yes, for me, these three concepts are what drives NF Core and what drives my work every day.
Excellent. Well, if you have anything else you want to add or any links, or whether it's like your podcast stuff, etc., at some point, hopefully soon, I will I gotta make a YouTube and probably like a Fediverse tube channel. Is it PeerTube? I think it's PeerTube. Um,
I think it's perturbed too, yeah.
so I'll make a channel and I will post this video at some point. But I haven't actually made the channel, so I can't like post it immediately. But in any case, if you have any links beyond, like I can definitely get the link to your website, but if you have more specific things like a particular like new contributor area of the docs, or like a ways for people to learn more, just things you want to highlight, I'm happy to like make the description a bunch of links.
Yeah,
The
no,
link.
no, definitely. I will. Anyway, I think I will go back with my like contributors like within the core team, let them know what we did and how we do stuff, and see if they want like to add anything. Because yes, I probably like forgot tons of stuff.
I also gave you absolutely no structure to this. Hopefully, once I do a couple of these, I'll get a sense for the kinds of things that is helpful to talk about, and then I can be like, hey, prepare to talk about these things. But for anyone viewing this in the audience, I gave you absolutely like no guidance because I didn't know what we were going to talk about because it's the first one. So, you know,
No, no, but that it was super fun, and I think it was good to have like such an unguided like structure. And
yeah.
yes, I had no slide prepare. I just used like the website. No, one last stuff that I really want to show. Let me just see if I have that somewhere. It's sad that you cannot see my computer at the moment because the stuff I want to show is
You can share your screen again if you want.
no, but like it's not my yeah. I will share my screen, but that's not my screen that I wanted to share.
Uh,
Sorry. Sorry. Right. Let me share my screen again. Okay, this is my computer.
Oh, it's not showing it.
It's
Alas.
not sure. Okay, sorry. Uh,
Oh, there it
is
is.
it
Sorry.
working now?
I'm just too
Okay,
impatient oh, oh, I love that.
this is my computer. We make stickers, quite a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
stickers. Or
I was gonna ask about that because you have a drop down that's like it's like maybe it's the about section. It's like governance, and then the next one is stickers. And I was like, stickers? Why are stickers at the same level as governance? But I
yes,
can see
stickers
now.
because we are like highly into stickers. So this is correct. This is like my pipeline. So I designed the sticker. I printed it myself. These are like the golden sticker are the ones that we make for specific event. So we had one for some quiz. When we meet each other, we yeah. When we meet each other in hackathon, we hide like stickers of socks around, and the people that find the most sock like get a sticker for that. We made a tiny video game. These are part of the team that I'm part of, so outreach, maintainers, infrastructure, and these are like all of the events that have been happening in the community. I've been a mentor. I'm a Nextflow ambassador as well. And yeah, so
Incredible.
we've been trying to do stuff, and we do print other like specific stickers like merge cowboy. We have like documentation. I don't know if it's
Incredible.
robot or like. So yeah, we try to be like fun and like have this kind of stuff. And at every event that you go, you will have such stickers.
I love this so much. That's so cute. Um,
Yeah. And I
yeah,
think I think my colleague will be proud that I did not forget about the stickers.
excellent. All right, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording. So goodbye to anyone who's watching this. See you next time. Um,